Barber was kind of shown up a little bit defensively by Wigan in that game. Were you getting concerned about the things there, or did you think we can turn it around still?
Well, I was hopeful we could turn it around. I think the Warrington game was there were definite signs there of us not playing with the same level of authority and as we had done earlier in the season. I think the Wigan game was. I mean, I don't think we played very well, but I have to say I thought Wigan were. And it pains me to say it, but I thought Wigan were absolutely outstanding that day.
Right, okay.
I don't know whether you'd agree, but for me, I thought that was your outstanding performance of the season. I thought it was just sensational across the whole park.
It was in the conversation for us. It was one of our best three performances. We had a game against Castleford at home and the game against Warrington at Magic. But it's not about Wigan. But thanks for letting me have some nice memories.
Yeah, it's all right.
But yeah, to be fair, you were just beat. That was your worst defeat of the whole year in terms of margin of defeat, and probably you were just beaten by the better team on the day. You then went on another winning run though to close out the season. 4 wins in a row. There was a scratchy one away at Catalan. Then there was big, comfortable wins over Hull FC, Warrington and Castleford to get you up to the semi-final stage. But Warrington and Castleford were probably not going in, and Hull FC definitely, not going into those games at full strength necessarily. But how did you feel? I mean, 26-0 against Cass to end the season after hammering as well at the start of the season. Did you feel confident going into the Super League semi-finals?
I think we did, but we'd obviously been absolutely slaughtered by Castleford in the Cup semi, and we did not turn up that day at Bolton.
Catalan bossed it physically, didn't they? Which totally, I don't think I've seen happen to you guys all year.
No,
that day it did.
We totally lacked intensity that day. We've also, let's be honest, we've not been great in semi-finals for a while.
No.
So, I would say we felt if we played to our best, we would win, but there was clearly a nagging concern that it might not go our way, and as it turned out, it didn't. But it didn't for a different reason, I think, than from earlier in the season.
Catalan just outplayed you, like you say, with the intensity and the determination. That in defence they were so intense, in attack they were so much more determined. But the Warrington game went a different way. So talk a little bit about what you were sort of getting into a little bit before about maybe you'd lost that sort of enterprising spark. You went into your shell, maybe.
I think we did. I think we really did. I mean, I've thought hard about this game because it was really bitterly disappointing to lose. And I've thought probably 3 things about it. First of all, I think in terms of the game plan, it really felt like we got ourselves into good positions. I mean, Warrington started like a house on fire, and we really were hanging on at the start. But I felt like we got ourselves into some really good positions and then went very conservatively with our play. We were dropping goals left, right and centre. And it just felt to me not the brave thing to do. So the intensity was there, but it didn't feel to me like the game plan was right. I thought we needed to try and score tries rather than just eke out points and keep it tight. So I didn't feel the game plan was the right one. I felt, in retrospect, I didn't see this at the time. I only saw it on the video later, on the recording later. I hadn't realised. I thought Lomax had dislocated his thumb at the far end, and clearly he hadn't. He did sort of compound fractured his finger with his bone coming out of his skin, which is not very pleasant. But he was put through. I don't know whether you remember this, but Barber made a really nice break.
Yeah.
And Lomax was trailing on the inside, and Barber put a pass to him, and Lomax spilled the ball. And obviously, I think the break in the finger had to have played a role, but he may have got us over the line if we'd have scored that, because it would have been right under the sticks, and of course we'd have lost by 5 in the end. But generally, Mark, I think there's another underlying theme, which is one of the marks of Holbrook as a coach is that he always plays his best side. So if we got injuries, and we didn't have many injuries last year, by the way, which is a big theme for us.
One big one to Walmsley.
Yeah. But other than that,
a little bit of the time without Roby, but not much. Yeah,
not much. We were pretty much in a very good shape from an injury perspective last year, which is always a big help. But so obviously there were a few little injuries, and people would get left out for that. He would left a couple of people out for form, like Amor during the year, or because he didn't have, he didn't think they fit with what he wanted to do, like Smith. But generally, he would pick the best team he had available, so he didn't rotate at all. And I felt a little bit towards the end of the season, a long season in comparison to Australia.
Yeah.
And we only didn't play 2 games, the 2 finals.
Yeah.
And I felt like our players were on the wane by the time we got to the back end of the season. And I just wonder whether, in retrospect, Holbrook might think that if he'd have played some of the younger guys and just gave a few of the older guys a bit of a rest once in a while during the course of the season, we might have been a bit stronger. But
that's interesting, yeah, because that last 5-10 minutes against Warrington, I didn't really, watching it, I didn't really think that Saints were there.
No, we were.
Even with the sort of Lomax situation, like you mentioned, it always just felt like your supporting player, if you were going to make a break, was always going to be a step away anyway, because it just didn't feel like everyone was at the right energy levels and that sort of thing. So that's an interesting point you make about the length of the season and the fact that you managed to stay fit all the season, but that meant no one had a week off. Interesting, yeah. Right, rather than finish on that low note, because it was such a great season for St Helens, why don't you talk about just a few of the players that stood out for you this year, maybe?
Yeah, obviously Ben Barber was a real highlight for us. It's always great to watch, a top player at that sort of level. It was like watching Jamie Lyon, or going back in time, watching people like Meninga and so on who could come and do the magic on the field, and that's always a highlight. But from our own ranks, obviously Roby's a machine. I know you really rate James Roby. We absolutely love him. I think we won't really know what we're missing until he's not there anymore. He should probably have a statue outside the ground as well.
Don't make him coach then. Once you put it
up. No. I don't think there's any prospect of that. No prospect of that. But Johnny Lomax, he'd come back the year before and recovered. Clearly had recovered from his injury. I think particularly once Barber started to wane in the second half of the season, Lomax really stepped up to the plate and had a great season for us. Thompson filled the breach left by Walmsley and Sum. So we're quite excited by the prospect of getting those 2 guys back together if we can next year. That would be brilliant. And then
Thompson was unquestionably the best prop in the competition.
He had a super season. Yeah, he had a super season, and probably he's probably the greatest example of what I think Holbrook's done generally for us, because one of the things I really admire about this guy as a coach, not putting to one side some of my concerns about some of the tactics we used against Warrington and maybe overplaying some of his players, he has no doubt improved pretty much everybody that's pulled on a Saints shirt this year.
Oh, yeah. Especially the forwards.
Yeah, particularly.
I think especially the forwards. I mean, Morgan Knowles has come on loads under him. Dominic Peyroux actually looks like a competent rugby league player under him. Luke Douglas started his first season off with Butterfingers. This season he was not like that at all. And then Thompson, like you say, is the poster boy for it.
So he has definitely made all of those players look better and play better than they have been doing, and that's a hallmark of a fine coach, I think. And so we're looking forward to seeing whether he can do the same. And Percival was the other guy I think who really stood out for us last year. Tommy Makington's always great fun. post-season, he's obviously had a huge amount of publicity with the international stuff.
Yeah.
And I think people are slightly rewriting the season around the fact that he played extremely well in the internationals because he didn't get a huge amount of ball. I mean, he's been very good bringing the ball out for us, but down that right-hand side, he didn't get a huge amount of ball. And, if you look at his try stats, he's not scored that many tries. So, because we didn't go down the right very often. So,
and he played a number of games at centre as well, didn't he? So out of position.
He did, because Morgan wasn't playing an awful lot, and Costello, whilst he was doing very well in the championship, is still very young and inexperienced. So, but Tommy did step into centre on a number of occasions, and that's better than seeing Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrook play centre, I can see. I never want to see that again.
So there was plenty of players to pick up, plenty of highlight moments that you went through. So I think all in all, looking back on 2018 in a fond light as a St Helens fan, despite not getting the trophies that you wanted. So I think that's a cool way to end our look back on Saints' 2018 season. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Mark.
Right, to talk a little bit about what's been going on with the transfers for St Helens from 2018 to 2019. I'm delighted to have Matt, aka Frogmore, on the line. So welcome to SLP, Frogmore.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
No, it's really great to hear from you. We love getting people in from all over the world. So you're probably the first time we've had a Tasmanian voice on the show, isn't it, with you? So there we go.
Yeah, I think I did the recording for you guys for the end of season review last year, I believe. So technically not the first time being on SLP.
Good point. First time chatting though. So we'll go through,
first time call up.
We'll go through the players that have left first, and maybe you could give a view on some of those. Certainly some of the more bigger names of those. So John Wilkin has gone to Toronto. Ben Barber's gone back to the NRL. Ryan Morgan's gone out on loan, but basically he's left, but he's gone to London. Matty Smith has also gone. He's gone to Catalan. Then a few of the younger players, Morris, Fairclough, Brown, and Cooper, who's on loan, have gone out the door as well. The latter ones, I'm guessing we're not going to talk much about. But
no, the ones on loan, I think we can leave those ones.
But any of the other departures that you're going to be sad to have seen the back of in a Saints shirt, and any that you're happy to have seen the back of in a Saints shirt?
I think the obvious one, if it comes to who I might be happy to see go, would be Wilkin. However, I won't lie, the opinion of him started to turn towards the end of this season, where you could actually see the organisation he did bring, despite being the penalty merchant I quite often pointed him out to be. I think the obvious sad to see go, anyone who followed my Twitter throughout the game, as they would be throughout the season, would be Barber, the obvious one. I would like to have seen him play out the contract. I think he had one more year left, didn't he? So that would have been one to go. And Ryan Morgan... yeah, that one sort of says it all. It wasn't anything particularly wrong with him, but it was, it's just more, especially this season, I'm like,
It wasn't really ever an NRL import that felt like an NRL import. He felt like he was a Super League player all along, didn't he? So to lose him isn't that sad.
When he was at Melbourne, it was almost as if they were pushing he was going to be one of the next big things, and then I guess he ended up in the Super League. So I don't know what happened there, but he did his job well. But this season, not really anything to miss, and I'm sure we'll get on to the reason why when we talk about the ends. But no, and also with Matty Smith as well. Normally that would have been an opinion that I would have had of sad to see him go again, but I think Danny Boy kind of cemented that spot, and it meant that he was never going to make the first grade team again.
I think it leaves you a little sort of depth though at Haas with obviously Lomax, Richardson, and Farge, but that's kind of it, isn't it?
Yeah, It's interesting to see what will happen with Farge as well, because I thought he would have got more of a go than he did. There were some games where